And now let's discuss the global politics with our global news editor, Yuriy Fizer, who's already in the studio. Yuriy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Volodymyr.
So what are the main events that took place during the last 7 days spotlighting Ukraine?
Well, I have to say that another week of struggle for Ukraine's independence has passed. This struggle continued on battlefields where brave Ukrainian soldiers and officers fought against Russian invaders. But this struggle also continued on diplomatic front lines. Politicians, government officials and diplomats from all around the globe have also been busy this week deciding how to help us in fighting Russian aggression.
So much news, but can you name the major one?
Yes, I can. First, diplomats gathered in the capital of Poland, the city of Warsaw. A meeting of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe was held there. Representatives of different countries met to discuss and resolve important issues for the organization. Among other things, they talked about the need to reorganize the work of the OSCE, in particular during the Russian war in Ukraine. That is, one of the main questions was as follows: can representatives of the aggressor state, which started this war, participate in the meeting of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe? This issue of supporting Ukraine was also among the main ones. And this is what about the support for Ukraine. The president of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, Mrs. Margareta Sederfeld, said in her introductory speech.
Since then, there have been 9 months of terror and destruction. Millions plagues in the dark and the cold. Cities destroyed. Thousands of Ukrainians buried and leveled. Victims of war, millions of displaced or deported Ukrainians. But Ukraine is strong. Ukraine stands strong. And our assembly stands with Ukraine.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, the host country of this meeting, Mr. Zbigniew Rau, said that in addition to words about helping Ukraine, the countries members of the OSCE must show this help in action and not to appease the aggressor. This is what Mr. Rau said.
Ladies and gentlemen, if our ultimate goals are to defend and preserve peace, and to build confidence and expand our cooperation, then it is this that should guide the OSCE and its individual actors in the choices we make. However, keeping the organization cannot be an end in itself. Nor do I think that appeasement and giving a free pass to aggression and violence can be the means to preserve the organization either.
And Volodymyr, I must say that maybe one of the strongest speeches during this meeting came from the leader of the United Kingdom's delegation to the OSCE, Mr. Mark Pritchard. He briefly and very clearly said what West should do in order to help us to win the war. Let us hear Mr. Pritchard.
So this war is not just restricted to Ukraine. It is impacting millions of people in our own countries and beyond even the membership of this organization. And it is likely to get worse rather than better unless we take action. We have a choice in this assembly to continue to just offer warm words and motions and platitudes, which are important and have their place in diplomacy. But to add to that, 3 words: weapons, 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 in order to achieve peace, peace, peace.
It's pretty clear.
Yes.
More weapons.
Weapons, weapons.
For the peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
Yep.
And now, Volodymyr, we have the head of the Ukrainian delegation to the OSCE, Mr. Mikita Poturayev. Mr. Poturayev, do you hear us?
Yes, perfectly well. I'm glad to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. If you don't mind, we will hear what you said during this meeting a week ago, and then I will ask questions, okay?
Great.
So let's hear.
So, colleagues, I ask you to support this very principle for the future of this organization decision and to change rules and procedures so that we, as Organization for Security and Cooperation, can show that we can protect security and we can fight for cooperation. So as Ukraine now is fighting for freedom and democracy. Because if we are not able even to suspend membership of aggressor state, for us, Ukrainian delegation, it will be, unfortunately, a necessity to think about suspension of our membership.
So, Mr. Poturayev, my first question to you will be as follows. Did your colleagues in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly agree with what you said? I mean, did they suspend membership of the Russian delegation?
Unfortunately not. It was very sorrow surprise for us, a very bad surprise. Of course, we received messages during first days of work of assembly, but principally we were prepared to what happened during standing committee. But of course, we and nobody from Ukraine could be prepared to hear absolutely unacceptable things from members of standing committee. So, like, for example, Swiss delegation, Netherlands delegation, for our surprise, Finnish delegation, part of German delegation, part of French delegation, Cyprus delegation. They told to all delegations that we can't close the window, we can't close the door, we should have dialogue with the Russians, we all have to communicate with Russians. Now, people even and I think that it's a real problem for OSCE and in general for Europe. Even considering right decisions that were taken on NATO Parliamentary Assembly or Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, but still there are a lot of such thoughts that, but at the same time we have to communicate, we have to talk with Russians, we have to discuss with them something. I told that I'm not going, and we, as members of Ukrainian delegations, we are not going to discuss with cannibals aspects of the taste of human meat. So we don't understand what to discuss with Russians. And the problem that I started with is that they even don't understand how it is immoral to meet with people who said many times that all Ukrainians should be killed, that every people who speak Ukrainian language should be killed, that there is no Ukrainian nation, there is no Ukrainian language, there is no Ukrainian culture. Practically all, 99% of members of Russian delegation made such statements in their media many times. And how are they going to meet with them, and what are they going to discuss with them? Ukrainian delegation, as I've mentioned, is not going to meet and debate and discuss with Russians anything. So we can come if Russians, what I don't believe in any case, but if Russians will say that we are coming to negotiate something concrete, so in that case, we will go to our president, we'll go to our Minister of Foreign Affairs, we'll tell them that there is a proposal from Russians through OSCE to negotiate some concrete things. If we have mandate, we'll go, we meet, and we will negotiate.
But
if we have instructions, but we are not going to go to Vienna or any other city and just to meet with them in the meeting room. You understand? Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
So we're not going to dispute with these, I don't know, creatures.
But still,
again, all these talks that look, all wars should be ended by negotiations. No. Major part of wars was ended by capitulations. Yes, there are different types of capitulation. And really, there can be negotiations about terms of capitulation. So in such negotiations, the Ukrainian delegation is ready to take part, to discuss terms of Russian capitulation. But we're not going to discuss with them anything else.
Yeah, that is pretty clear. But still, in this situation, is OSCE ready to support organizing a special tribunal for Russian Federation?
Look, there is it's not a market. They said that they are ready, but it's not something that I would trade. So if they are ready to support special tribunal, okay, please support. But it's not a change. Okay, we will organize or we will support tribunal, but please come and discuss something with Russians. No, it's not our case. If you want to support tribunal, please support it. It's separate act,
Mr. Poturayan, and one last question from me. Does OSCE as an institution have any practical meaning for us right now in this current situation?
Unfortunately, very few meanings. And I think that this situation is an absolutely clear case to start, discussing, at least discussing, deep reform of this international organization. Because if it's not able to reform itself and to apply even weakest sanction against aggressor, it means that this organization has no future. And then Ukraine, together with our allies, will raise the question of possible organizing new organization, which is able to support and to provide security and cooperation in Europe.
Thank you, Mr. Poturayev. Thank you for being with us today.
This was a very emotional discussion. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This was Mikita Poturayev, the head of the Ukrainian delegation to the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And
what else
another
happened?
important meeting took place in Kyiv a few days ago. The ministers of the foreign affairs of the Scandinavian and Baltic countries came to our country. The biggest group of ministers from Nordic and Baltic states, namely from Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Norway and Iceland, came to Kyiv on November 28th. The main topic of discussion was the strengthening of Ukraine's support. Ministers expressed full solidarity with Ukraine and made a number of statements regarding further assistance to Kyiv, the supply of air defense and missile defense systems to Ukraine, strengthening of sanctions against Russia, the demilitarization of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and the work of grain corridors. Then, together with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, they left for the NATO summit in Bucharest. And then we'll talk about NATO summit in Bucharest, helping Ukraine to restore critical infrastructure facilities after massive Russian rocket shells. According to the Secretary General of the North Atlantic Alliance, Jens Stoltenberg, this was the main topic at the meeting of NATO states foreign ministers. The meeting took place on November 29-30 in the capital of Romania, Bucharest. In particular, the member states of this military political union will continue to help restore gas and energy infrastructure facilities. Moreover, they will continue to give us means of air defense. Mr. Stoltenberg also emphasized that Ukraine has already received a large-scale assistance from NATO, but it is necessary to mobilize even more, since shelling of important objects in Ukraine may continue. Unfortunately, it may continue, and we have to be ready to this. And we need this help from our allies and partners from the West. And we are now joined, as far as I understand, by Mr. Tomasz Zdechowski. He is a member of the European Parliament, and he represents Czech Republic. Mr. Zdechowski, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure every time to join and support the Ukrainian people.
Mr. Zdechowski, thank you for your help and for your support. The German Bundestag recognized the Holodomor of 1932-1933 as a genocide of Ukrainian people. The resolution was adopted in Berlin by a majority vote. As far as I understand and remember, Czech Republic adopted the same resolution in April. My question to you is as follows. I do understand why it is important for Ukrainians, but why it is important for Europeans, at least for some?
Listen, this is very important. Make any political statement about situation in your country. And I think that genocide, what is Russia systematically trying to do, is very important to present it to the European society, and it's very necessary have it common position in all European countries and present it to the media and speak about it, because Russians are doing systematically genocide of Ukrainian people, and we have to be absolutely clear and repeat it that it's genocide like Turkey did against the Armenian, like the Nazis did against the Jewish people or people with Jewish origin. Also, this is the same principle, and in 21st century is absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you. And I got another question. So last week was quite a busy week in Europe. There were quite a few meetings held in different parts of the continent, and Russian threat was one of the main topics, if not the main one. So does Europe have enough patience to continue to stay with Ukraine, to stand with Ukraine until our victory?
Yes, you can trust us that we have the same position for the future. Also, we will stay with Ukrainian people and we will stay with you. We are as brothers and sisters, and this is what I am saying. I am saying it from my heart, and I will tell you that many of my colleagues have its same position. Also, we will not let you go. We will not help the Russia to be owner of the Ukraine people. Also, we are absolutely clear. We want to support Ukraine to win this war.
Mr. Zdechowski, and one more question to you from me. The European Union, as far as I understand, started to work on the 9th package of anti-Russian sanctions. Do you maybe know which sanctions can be in this package? And I suspect that you know.
Yes, you know it very well. This is why you are calling me. This is, you know that I know many background information, but most important things that we are trying to put on the sanction list the people who are really responsible for the genocide in Ukraine. And I think that we have to take really much more stronger action against these people. And I think that we need to have it the concrete sanction, not only against the industry parts, but we need to have it concrete sanction against people who are responsible for the Russian propaganda and for the Russian genocide in Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us and for taking part in our program. This was Tomasz Zdechowski, the member of the European Parliament representing Czech Republic.
And we continue discussing the major events that has happened in the global politics during the last 7 days. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the main events has happened in China.
Oh, yeah. It's too far from us, and many people, at least here in Ukraine, think that China is too far from Ukraine. Yep. Maybe it's not interesting for us, but it's very interesting for us. Something very unusual, and I would even say strange, happened in China a few weeks ago. For a few weeks. Protests in the Celestial Empire are not just abating, they are gaining momentum and spreading to new cities every day. Despite the ban, the Chinese continue to hold mass protests. In such a manner, they express disagreement with the draconian methods by which the Chinese leadership is trying to contain the spread of the coronavirus disease COVID-19. Thousands of people were detained throughout the country. To this dissatisfaction with the country's leadership was added, people chant slogans like Xi Jinping, go away, and Communist Party, go away. But Ukrainians are also worried by the information that during the past weeks, Russian transport planes very often flew to China. What did they bring back? And does this mean that Beijing finally decided to join Russian war in Ukraine? So far, I cannot answer this question. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, let's wait and see.
And so it's all for now in my part of Spotlight Ukraine. Volodymyr, see you next week, and back to you.
Thank you for your job, and we're waiting just in 1 week for the global news from you. Yuriy Fizer, our global news editor. We were just discussing the global politics, and this is Spotlight Ukraine. We continue. Stay with us. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments, contact us via email.